Why can't you be consistent? Consistency really is key, but that doesn't mean it's an easy thing to implement into your life, especially when you're used to having a schedule that's set by other people, work, school, plans with friends, etc. You may find it difficult to be consistent in your personal life at times when you're the only factor. Here are some possible reasons consistency is difficult for you. 1. Self-doubt. Doubting yourself and having negative self-talk are things that your consistency can really be affected by. Of course, it's not your fault that you may have negative and often irrational thoughts. Much of the time they're subconscious. While it isn't your fault if you have a mean voice in your head saying mean things about you, it is within your control to change it. Getting rid of self-doubt is not easy by any means, especially if you struggle with things like anxiety and depression. Doubting yourself may just be second nature to you. The next time negative thoughts come creeping in, try talking back to them, in your head or out loud. If your mind starts telling you that you're a failure, ask why. Making mistakes is a part of life. It's not pleasant to feel like you've let others or yourself down, but mistakes can also be learning opportunities if you don't let them control you. The deeper you dig into these negative thoughts, the more you'll realize that they usually don't make a lot of sense. Giving them a name may help separate yourself from them because you are not your thoughts. As you battle self-doubt, you will feel much more capable and surer of yourself. Feeling capable will help you be consistent, whereas self-doubt is likely to do the opposite. 2. Focusing on the outcome. Focusing on the outcome is another thing that can make you feel like you haven't made much progress. For example, if you're trying to be consistent with exercising and your goal is to lose 20 pounds, you won't achieve that overnight. It's entirely possible with consistency, but results take time, especially worthwhile ones. There's so much more to exercise than just looking better. It improves your confidence and overall health too. If all you focus on is losing that weight, or whatever else your goals with consistency are, you may start feeling like it's impossible, especially if you're already battling feelings of self-doubt. Instead of focusing on the outcome, focus on the progress. Say you haven't been going to the gym as much as you would like to. Well, you signed up and got the membership, didn't you? Remember how afraid you were the very first time you went to the gym? You might even still be afraid of going to a public gym. Every time you do, you're proving these negative thoughts wrong. And that can be even more important than losing weight. But when you focus on the progress and become proud of yourself, it's easier to both be consistent and achieve your goals. 3. Relying on motivation. Motivation is defined as the reason or reasons one has for acting or behaving in a particular way. Typically, motivation comes from an outside source, like a compliment. Some days we just feel more motivated and energized than other days, making us want to clean everything we've been putting off. While motivation is good, it's not always sustainable. This is where discipline comes into play. Motivation is doing things because you want to do them, but discipline is doing things even when you don't want to do them. All the cleaning you were randomly motivated to do one day, there wouldn't have been so much of it had you been practicing discipline. Discipline doesn't come as easy as motivation does. In fact, it doesn't really come easy at all. You're breaking old habits, such as procrastination, and forming new ones, doing the things you want to become consistent with. Discipline isn't easy at first, but within a couple of weeks, your brain will be trained to be more consistent, and it will nearly be the same as motivation. If you have trouble staying consistent, you're not alone. There could be a few different culprits in why you can't stay consistent. Some of these include self-doubt, focusing on the outcome rather than the process, and relying on motivation. If you notice these traits within yourself, you can change them as you become more aware of them. And as you battle these traits, you'll find that it will become much easier to stay consistent. What makes a person consistent? You're probably familiar with the word consistency and the term consistency is key. You're already consistent with many things in your daily life, whether it be showing up to work or school every day, talking to your friends and family consistently, or basic things like eating regularly. When we say consistency is key, we mean more than this though. Consistency is an important virtue to reach your goals and live a productive life. So, what exactly makes a person consistent? Discipline is one of, if not the most important traits in someone who is consistent. Discipline is doing things even when you don't feel like it. If you're trying to be consistent with waking up early, you're not going to have the motivation to do so every single day. After all, we're human beings, not robots. If you rely solely on motivation to stay consistent, you won't be able to keep up with it for very long. The end result of doing something, whether you're motivated or not, is the same, a sense of accomplishment and pride that you kept your promise to yourself. Even the most successful athletes and performers aren't motivated every single day, but they are disciplined. When you introduce your mind to new habits, it's going to be uncomfortable. The human brain takes around 3 weeks to fully adjust to a new habit, so those first few weeks of waking up at 6 a.m. won't likely be fun. You'll want to stay in bed. But if you push through and get up even when you don't want to, eventually you will have disciplined yourself into adapting a new lifestyle. Sticking with the same example of waking up early, you're likely not going to be able to get up at 6 a.m. if you're used to falling asleep very late in the night. Say you're more of a night owl and you're used to going to bed at 2 a.m. Instead of forcing yourself to sleep for half the recommended time, you will consistently start going to bed earlier so you can wake up earlier. The same can be said about anything that requires consistency. If you want to go to the gym and start lifting weights, chances are you won't be able to start out with 50-pound weights. You'll have to start small and work your way up. You won't reach your goals instantly, but with consistency, you can reach smaller goals in order to sustainably work your way towards your bigger ones. Consistency is essentially keeping promises. You're keeping promises to yourself by showing up every day, even when you don't want to. But you're also keeping promises to others. When you show up to work every day, that's being consistent. When you take steps to wake up earlier or go to the gym when you say you will, you're being consistent with your promises to yourself. This is important because it improves your self-concept and you will begin to trust yourself more. Accountability is another important element of consistency. As mentioned, when you're consistent, you're keeping promises. But sometimes things don't always go as planned. If you can't be consistent, you can be consistent with holding yourself accountable. This can look like a number of different things. Of course, accountability with others can include apologizing when you know you messed up and developing clear communication skills. When you apologize to someone, you expect them to forgive you, but the same goes for yourself. If you don't make it to the gym on a day you meant to, forgive yourself. By forgiving yourself consistently, it's easier to move forward and continue to be consistent in other facets of your life. What happens if you miss a day of consistency? Missing a day of consistency is quite oxymoronic, as these two things don't really go together. We are human after all, and you're bound to slip up in one way or another. This can be difficult, especially if you tend to be hard on yourself. If you miss a day of being consistent, it doesn't mean that you're a bad person, that you're a failure, or any other mean thing that your thoughts might try to tell you. If something came up and you just aren't feeling it one day, the most important thing to remember is that it's okay to miss a day of being consistent. In fact, maybe it even means that you were trying so hard you just needed a break. Either way, missing a day means you already started a journey of consistency and have been successful. Missing one day does not mean you aren't succeeding. Upon missing a day of consistency, you might start getting down on yourself. Emotions are natural and acceptable, but it's important that you don't let this control you. Once you let the negative thoughts consume you, it's more likely to be difficult to get back to your consistency. Instead, do the opposite of how you feel. If your thoughts start telling you that you're not a worthy person, buy yourself a special treat or go ahead and purchase that thing you've been wanting. Think of it as a reward for even practicing consistency in the first place. Perhaps even planning a day where you can take a break from everything might be necessary. Planning this could be considered a part of consistency, as you're staying true to your word and following through with something that you said you'd do. Taking a day off doesn't mean you've failed, and can even be necessary to succeed as you recharge. It doesn't have to be something that feels big, like going to the gym or leaving the house at all for that matter. Maybe it's as simple as taking care of your body and making sure you're hydrated and eating enough food. Do things that make you feel good. Put consistency aside for the moment. Journaling and meditation are great ways to work through missing a day of consistency as well, as they could help you navigate through tough emotions and be supportive of yourself. On that note, when you miss a day of consistency, you could take it as an opportunity to catch up with friends or family, or confide in someone who's been supporting you with your consistency journey. As you've already learned through being consistent, courage is an important element. It can take courage to admit to yourself that you feel burnt out and are in need of a short break, and letting yourself feel that it's okay. Missing one day of consistency does not erase any progress that you've made. If you take a break, you may feel more inspired to continue the next day. Try to keep your thoughts on the brighter side and think about all the progress you've already made. A tough day is an obstacle, but it isn't the end. If you miss a day of consistency, don't be hard on yourself and remember that the next day is a perfect time to continue right where you left off. How to build consistency if you have none. Consistency is a big word and a vague one at that. It can and does apply to every aspect of our lives. You show up to work or school consistently and do basic human things such as eating and brushing your teeth. But what about being consistent with things we're not told to do by someone else? The answer is discipline. You've probably grown up with the word discipline having a negative connotation. You'll be disciplined if you act out. As children, discipline was often a consequence of doing something wrong. Well, it's time to rewrite how you feel about discipline. The goal is that you train your mind well enough to the point where you're consistent with healthy habits every day that bring you closer to your goals. This is possible, but certainly easier said than done. If you're trying to be more consistent, you'll need discipline in your life, but it can start on a small scale at first. For example, let's say you're trying to spend less time watching TV or scrolling on social media. Setting an alarm on your phone and turning off the TV when the alarm goes off would be a good way to go about this. But mostly discipline is just doing things when you don't want to do them. Let's say you want to get up earlier in the mornings, but you're so tired and groggy you end up going back to sleep right away. You're much less likely to fall back to sleep if you get up as soon as your alarm goes off, but it feels near impossible in the moment. If you can't seem to bring yourself to do it, perhaps set your clock or phone far away from your bed so you'll be forced to get up and turn the alarm off. Discipline doesn't always work like this though. If you're trying to go to the gym more often or learn a new skill, the only thing between you and doing it is you. Therefore, it can be beneficial to start small. For instance, if you don't have it in you to go to the gym, try a home workout from YouTube or take a walk around the neighborhood. Make this a habit and before you know it, you'll actually want to go to the gym. It's not easy by any means, but it does get easier to discipline yourself. There's a fine line between training yourself to be better and being hard on yourself, though. You want to discipline yourself while warding off negative thoughts at the same time. The more disciplined you are in your daily life, the more you'll be able to truly relax when the time comes. They say consistency is the key to success, but discipline is the key to consistency. How to be consistent when you want to give up. While the saying consistency is key is true, it's not always as easy as it sounds. After all, we're not robots. We're people who sometimes have bad days or have things happen that make us want to put our entire life on hold. The truth about consistency is you're not always going to be motivated, which is why discipline is more important than motivation. Progress isn't always tangible. If you aren't seeing the results as quickly as you were hoping, it's easy to fall back into older habits and give up entirely. Let's say you've been going to the gym and eating healthier to try and lose weight. You're looking at photos of yourself from a month ago, and you don't feel like you look all that different. This might make you feel like it's easier to just cancel your membership and sit at home instead. But in reality, visible results aren't the first results you'll see from the gym. Sticking with the same scenario, if you don't look entirely different after just 1 month, that's not a bad thing. It means you've been eating enough to keep up with all the calories you're burning. As you gain more muscle in the gym, excess fat will shed in its own time. Meanwhile, you'll get to reap the mental benefits that come with going to the gym. Not only are you keeping yourself disciplined when you get up and exercise, even when you're feeling lazy, you're also keeping a promise to yourself. Both of these things create a better self-image and will make your problems seem just a little bit smaller. Maybe you don't have enough physical energy or time to go to the gym right now, but everything starts with your thoughts. If you feel guilt start to creep in about how you could be doing more, remind yourself of the progress you've already made. It's not easy to build habits, especially healthy ones. As you change your mindset, it will be easier to accomplish things in the future, if not today. If you can't go to the gym today, that's okay, but it doesn't mean you can't do anything that is good for you which could help you reach your goals. When the self-doubt starts to set in, combat it, both physically and mentally. Replace a negative thought with a positive one, or find something different to focus on entirely. For example, if you're having thoughts that you failed because you didn't make it to the gym, get up. Movement can distract our minds. Even 20 push-ups or jumping jacks will shift your mind's focus from "I didn't do anything" to "I'm doing something." Try turning on some music that lightens your mood. As much as we want it to be, progress isn't always linear, but this doesn't mean it's not consistent. Consistency might not always look like going to the gym every single day, because self-improvement is not tied down to one thing. Instead, if you didn't go to the gym, you can work on being consistent with your kindness towards yourself. Forgiveness is important, but forgiving yourself is the most important. Instead of feeling bad about yourself that you didn't get everything done today, feel proud that you even started a fitness journey in the first place. We all have bad days, and that's okay. If you believe that it's not okay to have bad days, this will only make consistency harder. Consistency in the face of fear. Being consistent with anything means that you are committed to it. The last thing you want to do is sit motionless as opportunities pass you by. But fear, especially the fear of failure, can be paralyzing. There are 2 things you can do with fear: let it win or use it as motivation. The most important thing about staying consistent when you're afraid is to know that you are not your negative thoughts. Whether you have a fear of failing, of being truly seen, or even a fear of being afraid, times like these are arguably the most critical in terms of staying consistent. In fact, doing something even though you're afraid of it can pay off more than if you didn't have any fears. For one, you'll be prouder of yourself in the end. Being afraid can also make you more cautious, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. The trick is to not let it control you and balance your caution with confidence. There are a few ways in which you can learn to control your fears rather than letting them control you. As you do this, you may realize that they don't hold as much power as they did before you began meditating. Journaling is another way to work through fears. Both of these mechanisms are beneficial to our mental health, and the more you do them, the more you'll build consistency. As you learn more about yourself, you can learn the root of your fears. Questioning your fears will give them less power than they may have had initially, and understanding yourself is the best way to stop holding yourself back. Another way to stay consistent in the face of fear is by using affirmations. Now, it may seem silly at first, but standing in front of the mirror and saying positive affirmations to yourself can help change your perspective. Consistency doesn't always have to be an intense thing, but coupled with fear, it can definitely feel intense. It's not easy to fight fear, but what worthwhile thing is easy? As you practice staying consistent in the face of fear, it will become less challenging, and you'll be glad that you did it. Consistency doesn't need to be big. When you hear from mega famous and successful people that they got there by being consistent, You might find yourself thinking that means they spent hours every day practicing or bettering themselves and never took a day off. Thinking this, or doing it, is not realistic or sustainable. But it sure is easy to think that it's the only way to be consistent. Really, consistency isn't always about the big things. Sure, it's about not giving up, but that can have so many meanings which are all valid. For example, say your goal is to lose weight and become healthier. Every moment of every day can't realistically or healthily be dedicated to losing weight, but you can surely spend a lot of time becoming healthier. With that scenario, think about what health means to you. Eating healthier and exercising more, sure. But as you probably know, physical and mental health go hand in hand. And luckily, there are many small ways to work on both. Even if it seems small, a bunch of small things combined make something big and worthwhile. Eating organic, home-cooked meals every day can seem impossible if you're used to processed foods and fast food. Instead of setting your goal as completely eliminating fast food, try limiting yourself to one less than healthy meal a week, or having a meat-free dinner once or twice a week. When you set and achieve smaller goals like this, you're showing yourself that your bigger goals are doable and you're getting closer to them too. Going to the gym all the time can feel like an incomprehensible step when you're used to a sedentary lifestyle. Instead, try going for small walks a few times a week. It's recommended that you get 60 minutes of exercise every day, but this doesn't mean that it must all be done at once or all in the same way. If you don't go to the gym today, try doing some yoga and going for a walk. There are plenty of beginners yoga videos online that will meet you where you're at. We've covered the physical parts of consistency pertaining to a healthier lifestyle, but what about the mental ones? Maybe you're tired out from a long day and just can't get in those 60 minutes of exercise. Here's a secret. That's okay. Consistency doesn't have to look the same every day either. You can be consistent with yourself in multiple ways. Instead of scrolling through your phone after a long day, try reading a book or meditating. If you aren't used to doing either of those things, they will be difficult at first. But, like anything, a start is a start, and once you start, you'll find yourself wanting to do it more and more. When you notice yourself mindlessly scrolling, try putting on some meditation music and setting a timer for 10 minutes. Meditation helps you be more in tune with yourself. 10 minutes might not seem like much, but tons of research has been done on the benefits of it. You've probably heard millionaires talk about meditating in the morning. Some do it for 5 minutes, some dedicate more time to meditation. Either way, you're reaping the benefits by just sitting with yourself and clearing your head for a few minutes. The same can be said for reading a book. There are clear benefits, and you can start out with just a few minutes per day. These are just a couple of habits you could pick up. Journaling or spending time in nature instead of in your home are some more good ones, both of which you can do for as long or as short as you feel like. Building self-improvement habits like these will help you feel more motivated and more capable of your bigger goals, like eating healthier and losing weight. When you take baby steps instead of diving headfirst into a new territory, you're setting yourself up for success with consistency. 10 ways to be more consistent in less time. Consistency is something that helps us in many ways. It gets us closer to our big life goals. It helps us care for ourselves, and it allows us to be more confident. But the word consistency alone can mean a lot, and you might not know where to start. Here are 10 ways to be more consistent. 1. Get out of bed. Our morning sets up the rest of the day. If the first thing you do when you wake up is go on your phone, not only is this wasting time, it's slowing your brain down. This is not an easy habit to break, so try telling yourself later instead of no. It's true anyway, you'll probably end up scrolling later. Instead of rolling over and turning on your phone, try to start getting up right away and brushing your teeth and washing your face. Some other morning habits to build could be drinking water or stretching. If you have spare time after this healthier morning routine, then you can have phone time. but going on your phone as soon as you wake up does damage your motivation. 2. Set small goals. Consistency applies to every part of your life. Setting small goals is great for your self-esteem, as you're showing yourself that you are capable of completing things you set your mind to. If your goal is to get out of bed as soon as you wake up, you could try getting up and making your bed instead of throwing yourself into a new, unfamiliar routine right away. If you're trying to eat healthier, a smaller goal you could set would be to eat veggies with every meal. Maybe you got pizza for dinner, but you can balance that by cooking some broccoli. 3. Give yourself grace. Okay, let's say you got that pizza but didn't end up having any veggies with it. You aren't always going to be perfect, and that's okay. Forgiving yourself is a huge part of consistency. After all, without slip-ups and mistakes, there wouldn't be any progress. The fact that you slipped up means that you were already making progress, and the sooner you forgive yourself, the sooner you can progress even more. 4. Pick up healthier habits. More often than not, being consistent is synonymous to having healthier habits. As you become consistent with both short and long-term goals, you're likely to develop a healthier lifestyle, both mentally and physically. Having healthy coping strategies will help you feel more on top of things, and you'll be able to navigate your life with ease. 5. Organize your life. A great way to stay consistent is to be organized. Now, you've probably had times where you meant to do something, but it slipped your mind until it was too late. Organization will help you be more consistent, and vice versa. Now, this can look different for different people, whether you utilize your notes app, calendar app, or physical versions to help you remember plans you have. 6. Stick to your word. Sticking to your word consistently is helpful for both you and the people around you. When you set goals for yourself and complete them, you're sticking to a planned promise you made to yourself. Sticking to your word with others and developing clear communication skills will make you a reliable person. This is a very admirable personality trait. 7. Get moving. Objects in motion tend to stay in motion, while objects at rest tend to stay at rest. This applies for people too. You don't have to be busy all the time, but when you have downtime, consider doing some basic movements such as stretching for a healthier body and mind. 8. Be present. Staying in the present moment will help you reach short-term and long-term goals, as you'll have a clear mind and sharp focus. How you do that best is up to you, whether it be through mindful breathing, journaling before a big event, or meditation, to name a few. 9. Progress over perfection. Trying to be perfect can often lead to disappointment, especially if you view perfection as something other than yourself. Look back on how far you've come in the first place, rather than getting discouraged by one mishap. And finally, 10. Learn discipline. Discipline is surely one of the most important elements of consistency. Some days you're not going to feel like doing much. This is why discipline is important, more so than motivation. Discipline is training yourself in a sense to get things done, rather than needing an outside force or a certain feeling to do so. 5 steps to be more consistent. So, you want to be more consistent with the things you do, but it feels overwhelming. This is understandable. Any change can be overwhelming. Life can be unpredictable and unstable at times, but the one thing that you can control is yourself. Being consistent is something that's sure to pay off, and it starts with you. 1. Practicing mindfulness. Mindfulness activities are a great way to become more consistent. As you sort through your thoughts, you can figure out what your priorities are. With a clearer mind, you're much more likely to take action in changing your life. Meditation is a common mindfulness activity, and there are plenty of guided meditations online to listen to when you have a quiet place and a few minutes. Many people complain that meditation feels impossible because their thoughts don't quiet or they can't sit still. These are often the people who need meditation the most, as it will give them a chance to navigate through their minds. Mindful breathing is another method, and it's a form of meditation. It is particularly helpful for those who suffer with anxiety, as it can balance the nervous system and help you calm down. 2. Balance your work and personal life. Consistency can be synonymous with stability, both of which are challenging to tackle at first. One of the most common ways to gain stability in your life is by balancing work and home. If you aren't trying to keep these two parts of your life separate, you may find yourself more stressed and overworked than is necessary. Now, this can look different for different people. For some, you'll have to establish boundaries that completing work when you're not getting paid to do so is not within your contract or your means. For many, it also means finding something purposeful to do outside of work. This could mean finding a hobby that you enjoy, joining a club of some sort, or practicing meditation. Business does not have to equal work. 3. Develop healthier habits. Another way to stay consistent through whatever life throws at you is by becoming healthier in general. You've heard it a billion times. Exercise more, eat cleaner foods, get enough sleep. This doesn't have to be done in one foul swoop. Maybe it means slowly eliminating fast food or going for short walks a couple of times a week. Whatever you define health as, the more you commit to being healthy, the more stable your life will be. Exercise and eating healthy foods are, unsurprisingly, linked to a happier brain. Our gut produces 95% of serotonin, a happy chemical for our brains, so making it a good place for serotonin to produce will result in more and better serotonin. 4. Keep away from chaos. Sometimes we seek out chaos subconsciously. Maybe this means being around people who are dramatic or gossip or make us feel anxious. When you decide you want consistency in your life, this means you'll need to take a step back and evaluate your personal relationships. And 5. Commit to change. If you aren't committed to being consistent, it won't last. It isn't always easy to stay consistent, especially at the beginning. Think about the reasons you want to be a more consistent person and how it could benefit you. These reasons will help motivate you. Continue to assure yourself that consistency is worth the effort and it will pay off in a plethora of ways. 3 habits that equal consistency. Today, we're going to talk about habits that help build consistency. You've probably heard the tried and true words before. Consistency is key. But what exactly does that mean? The thought of making consistency a habit can feel overwhelming at first, so let's break down some simpler habits that you can form to create more consistency in the grand scheme of your life. 1. Set small goals. Let's say your ultimate goal is to start your own business and grow it to be worth millions of dollars. Regardless of where you are in that process, it doesn't really happen overnight. You can't exactly jump from where you are now to where you want to be in one simple step, but you can set smaller goals for yourself to steadily better your mind. Now, maybe you want to be a multimillionaire, but you're sitting next to a basket of laundry that is long overdue. You've probably also got something that you're interested in but haven't found time to pursue it yet. While you're on the journey to achieve your biggest goals, you can set smaller goals to help get into the mindset that anything you work for is doable. By setting smaller goals, you're also teaching yourself to be more productive. Before you fall asleep or right when you wake up, set a to-do list. Maybe today you're too busy to carve out hours of your time, but that doesn't mean you can't find small things to improve on. Have you been staying hydrated? When's the last time you read a book? What about exercise? Reading or exercising for even 5 to 10 minutes has numerous benefits and either are surely better for you than binge-watching TV. When you set small goals, you are becoming a more productive person and learning to manage your time better. You're also making and keeping promises to yourself, which will help you trust yourself more. As you complete the task and check off items on a simple to-do list, you'll feel good about completing your goals, and soon enough, those few minutes you spent on self-improvement will become a vital part of your day. 2. Rule out negative self-talk. It's far easier said than done, but shutting down the mean voice in your head will not only help you feel better about yourself, but it will also help you get things done. Often, negative self-talk is not even rational, but it can be so loud that we don't think twice about it. For example, let's say you had a bad day at school or work. Maybe you didn't do as well on a test as you thought you would, or you tried your very best, but you didn't manage to complete everything you were hoping to do. Neither of these things can mean that you're a failure, unintelligent, or any other mean word that your brain can come up with. But it's quite easy to fall into the trap of negative self-talk and believe those words. The next time your brain tries to tell you that you're not good enough, talk back to these thoughts. It doesn't have to be out loud, but as you become more aware of negative thoughts, you can realize that they aren't as true as they might seem, and you'll develop a deeper understanding of yourself. By giving yourself grace, things will feel a little lighter, and it's much easier to be consistent when the voice in your head is a cheerleader instead of a bully. 3. Think of the journey, not the destination. If you have big dreams and goals for yourself, it's easy to daydream and drift away from where you are right now. But the only way you can get the results you want, big or small, is by being consistent. The massive possibilities of the future seem so dramatic compared to the present moment, but the present moment is all you have right now. So, next time you find yourself drifting off into a daydream or wishing time would just speed up, ask yourself what you can do now to make things a little easier. Maybe you haven't dusted in a while, or maybe you've been trying to cut back on how much takeout food you order. A cleaner home makes for a cleaner mind, and so does a cleaner diet. Let's say today you have some spare time to clean. Set a timer for, say, 10 minutes. Wipe down the counters, start the laundry, or whatever else has been bugging you most lately. You'll feel much better after doing this, and again, you're reprogramming your brain to do something new. Be mindful of the next time you have a chance to do this, and before you know it, it'll become a habit to do the best you can with what you have. Teaching yourself to be consistent is not as easy as it sounds, especially if your life feels disorganized. Just the word consistency can feel overwhelming. But while challenging, there are some simple habits you can form to be more consistent in every facet of your life. By setting small goals for yourself, you're learning to keep promises to yourself. This will help you eliminate negative self-talk. And as you become more aware of negative thoughts and combat them, you will be more motivated to try new things or to try to do better at the same things. These tools, combined with staying present in the moment and thinking of consistency as a journey, will get you closer to being consistent with yourself, others, and your future.